At night, when the whole world is asleep, do you ever feel that there is something out there that you can't see? Someone breathing on your neck, shadows moving even when there is no one, and whispers that seem to be coming from an unknown part of the room. The things described here are not just fantasies. They are real and horrific experiences that give nightmares for days. Get ready for the horror stories that will follow you wherever you go. Do you have the courage to go through the darkness? If so, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and take a chilling plunge into these horrifying, true paranormal stories. This horrifying story, which I will share with you, will haunt you forever. My name is Aisha, and I am 10 years old. Recently, I have experienced sleep paralysis, but last night I am sure that it was not the case. It was 3 a.m. when I was watching BBMs, and my bed was facing the balcony door. I used to sleep with the bathroom door open and all the lights turned on. Suddenly, the bathroom door shut so violently that it made the loudest sound I have ever heard. As I stood up and tried to think about what happened, the closet door burst open, making my blood turn cold. I don't know what it was. It could be a ghost or something else. I was so confused, as there was no chance of wind, and I lived in a deserted country. I was traumatized. I tried to relax, taking deep breaths, and began to recite the Holy Quran. After 10 to 15 minutes, the closet door and my bathroom door shut with a bang. When I walked next to the bathroom door, I saw a smiley face on my bedroom door. After this horrible incident, I permanently moved from the place. I never looked back at that house. I still have nightmares about what I saw. This was indeed one of the most horrifying, true paranormal stories ever. My name is Anna, and one of my scariest flashbacks from what I read on my page. Some years back, a girl named Sasha told me her scariest story, which I tried to forget but couldn't. The girl who contacted me belonged to North Florida. Her family owned a farm. I don't remember what they used to grow, but I'm sure they had a lot of acreage. A girl was walking in the woods in her family's compound when she heard her name being called by a male voice she did not seem to know. Feeling that someone wanted to fool her, she stared, then turned and saw some people walking towards her. Frightened to death, she ran home, and it seemed that someone was following her, and branches cracked behind her. That night, she dreamt of a mythical being that required her blood. It got close over the years. It even killed their dog. She was alone one evening, and she heard tapping on the door of her house. Turning, she saw what looked like her brother, but then the black eyes, blood-stained mouth, and grimace sent a chill down her spine. She fainted, and when she opened her eyes, she found her family sitting around her. But the dreams had not ceased to bring her to the woods. Hi, my name is Perry, and I had one of the creepiest experiences someone could ever have. I was 16 years old, living in a massive house in the middle of Illinois' cornfields, when I had a horrifying experience. The house was over 200 years old and always creepy. I always had the feeling that someone was watching me at night. These nights of discomfort occurred only when I was the only person in the room. I would pray for peace, and most of the time, I would fall asleep again. This turned into a nightmare very soon. I got up with the sensation of an evil spirit one night. I saw something terrible on my ceiling. It was a human-like, but elongated and sprawled all over the room. It had black, sleek-looking skin, and its face resembled a deer's. From its head, tendril-like things grew, contributing to the overall strange look of its design. Its eyes focused on mine, and its look made me experience a chill running down my spine. I was scared. I pulled up the covers over myself and prayed to ease my tension. My heart was pounding as I screamed my mom's name over and over, but I couldn't scream. When she finally joined me, the entity disappeared. Even though I thought it could still be around, I was able to sleep, my thoughts racing with terror and denial. Moreover, everyone prayed for me the next day and told the entity it could not control us. This event was a turning point. Since then, I have not seen anything of the sort, but I have always been very much in tune with energies and what some people call discernment. I asked myself if the entity took advantage of my weaknesses. When it happened, I had yet to diagnose an autistic person with a mental disorder as well as the effects of childhood trauma. Maybe it felt my vulnerability. In any case, the memory is clear, an eerie reminder of the unknown. However, that night made me realize much more is happening than people can imagine. Whatever it was, it fed on weakness, but I was determined it should not control me. Ariana was an average high school student searching for a source of income. Of course, babysitting is something familiar that anyone can do. Little did she know that she would tell a horror story one night, changing her life forever. She had gained a good reputation in her neighborhood. Most families recommended her to other families. One day, one of her customers advised her to babysit his friend's son for one night because the couple was attending a wedding. It seemed easy to do, and Ariana, who wanted to earn some cash, agreed. On the evening that was arranged, Ariana arrived at the house. The mother took her to meet the son, and she was told that he was calm and well-mannered and would not cause any problems. They discussed his schedule, homework, television, shower, and sleep, and gave Ariana their phone numbers in an emergency. After that, the parents left Ariana, the boy, and their dog behind. It was a typical day until night arrived. Ariana got into the living room to read a book when the boy was put to bed and his door closed. The dog sleeping on a bed close to the scene became restless. It moved closer and closer to the boy's bedroom door and began to bark loudly, but it wouldn't come any closer, as if something was behind the door that frightened it. Ariana got nervous, and her mind started spinning with various ideas. Was there anyone in the room? She knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Then she heard it, a deep male voice coming from inside. The dog was barking incessantly, and she pulled herself together, opened the door, and entered it. What she saw made her shiver in her skin. The boy sat on the edge of the bed with his back to her and spoke meaningless words. What horrified her, though, was the realization that the deep male voice belonged to the boy. She called his name to check if he was sleepwalking and needed to be directed back to bed, but he did not stir. When he finally looked her way, he got to his feet, using that same creepy tone, and extended his hand toward her. Frightened, Ariana ran out of the room. The dog ran after her, and as expected, it went under the couch. She took her mobile and tried to call the parents, but they did not answer. A few minutes later, the boy came out of his room, crying in his natural voice. He said to her, "It happened again," and informed her that he was afraid of his dead grandfather, who said he would get inside him. The boy said that the grandfather was an evil man who died a mysterious death, perhaps because of witchcraft. When the parents returned home after Ariana called them, they said they had consulted a priest to pray for the boy and the house to be blessed, but the case did not change. Saying sorry, they thanked Ariana for her courage. That shaken Ariana offered her farewells and left the house, vowing never to return. She never got a response from the family again, but she did not care about it. Babysitting was a good paying job, but all the money in the world could not make her go there again. This is a horrifying story about a mimic shared by Savannah, one of my followers. It all started when Savannah and her close friend Faith watched creepy videos at Savannah's home. When it was time for Faith to leave, Savannah walked with her to her car, parked at the end of a long driveway. A few minutes later, Faith said to Savannah on the phone, "Are you still standing at the top of the driveway?" Perplexed, Savannah shook her head. She had gone inside before Faith even turned on her engine. Faith said that she was leaving. She glanced back and saw someone who resembled Savannah standing at the top of the driveway. This figure didn't react to Faith shouting out. It had a painted look on its face that seemed reddish in the darkness. A few weeks later, she observed more strange occurrences. One day, when Savannah was walking, her mother rang to ask what she wanted and said Savannah had been phoning her from her bedroom, but Savannah wasn't home. Later, Savannah's grandmother heard Savannah's mom calling her, only to find her mom sleeping in her room. The strangest occurrence was during Hurricane Helene. Savannah, one day with friend Faith and others, was using a ghost app while seated on the porch. They were getting strange answers, but things became creepy when Faith heard a child saying hello instead of responding. Still shaken, they attempted to pose more questions to the ghost app. Then, the app began to mutter unpleasant things, such as burning, fire, dead, and escape. Savannah was curious as she quickly searched for fires in their town's history. She read that in 1959, a man burned down a hotel after being offered $20,000 to do it. All of them got scared by the fact that the app's response were in one way or another connected to the tragedy that occurred in the town. Savannah even came across an article in a local newspaper that told the story of the fire. It all pointed towards the idea that something queer was afoot in and around her home. Whatever it was, the mimic or something associated with the town's history, the story raises many questions. If you are enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up and like and share it. My name is Emma, and I had a terrifying experience when I was 4 years old. Our parents used to turn on the living room's light before sleeping. One day, I woke up at night, and the light was still on as usual, but suddenly, I saw someone at the doorway. It frightened me, and I tried to process who it was. It was exactly like a character in a movie or a monster with a square head and a round body. Something very creepy and mysterious. That creature, whatever it was walked into the doorway, which scared me too much. I could not even utter a single word, as if I had fainted with my eyes open. Being that horrified, I covered myself with a blanket, trying to hide from that creature. This incident shook me to the bones. The next one is about when I was 5. My parents separated, and I was living with my mom. I loved it, as my best friend also used to live upstairs, and we enjoyed every weekend. We also used to have sleepovers every weekend. The story is about when I woke up and saw someone walking into my room. I knew it was not good, as no one could come to my room, even my mom, so late at night. This time, the lights were off, and it was dark everywhere. I tried to find my torch on my bedside table, but I don't know how it fell and rolled away. There was no chance of me leaving my bed at that time. Meanwhile, I also felt tickling on my belly for about 5 to 6 seconds, which caused me to giggle. After some time, the creature stopped moving, and I covered myself with the blanket again. I don't remember, but I think after it I fell asleep. And the following day, my mom said that she heard me crying, and I was like, what? How's that even possible? I told her about the creature and that someone came and tickled me, but she just molded everything not to scare me anymore. It was one of my scariest experiences. And when I shared it with my colleagues, they didn't believe me, labeling it as something that just happens in dreams. But who would tell them that I faced this moment in real life? I, Mia, am about to share a horrifying incident with you today. So it all started when I finally got to go to a horror museum I had been thinking about for months, and took 4 friends with me. We arrived late, filled out some releases, and were informed we would be touring the museum with flashlights at night. All kinds of things, such as dolls and Ouija boards, were found in the place, which was creepy from the beginning. The mood became quite different as soon as we got to the basement. It was an assortment of creepy things, such as crime scene weapons and dolls. The spirit box began to make eerie sounds, and our flashlights would die out. I don't think I can ever forget the room with a notice that the room had lots of negative energy. However, we ignored the signs and went in. As soon as we did, we knew something was not quite right. I began to feel sick to my stomach and uncomfortable as I strolled around. My boyfriend and friends also had similar feelings. For instance, flashlights would switch on by themselves. Finally, I had to come out of the basement, and when I did, I felt relieved. Finally, all the participants agreed that they felt they were being observed and uncomfortable. It was sinister, which I consider disturbing, to say the least. I will not be visiting that museum again, and I hope the spirits remain where they are. Mala here, and I'm about to share a horrifying story that I heard from someone. Stress in the workplace had forced Tina to escape, and she needed a holiday. Hankering for isolation, she rented a beautiful countryside farmhouse through Airbnb, located in the middle of a dense forest. The object looked too good to be true, a small countryside house without interference in one's life. It was even better than the pictures on arrival, and good for business. She was happy to see a coffee station nearby and then took a break from her busy schedule to go there. On the first night at the Airbnb, it happened quietly. By 10:30 p.m., Tina was enjoying the night when she heard a strange sound upstairs. She was alone, and seeing that fear would not take the better of her, she proceeded to go up the stairs to ascertain the source of that noise. She turned on the light in the empty room, and the noise came from there. A rocking chair sat on one side, and it seemed its occupant had arisen from it only a moment before. She was very sure nobody else was in the house. She searched every closet and every room, but could not find one person. It made her feel uneasy, but she tried to be as calm as possible. She went back to her bedroom, locked the door, and got into bed. The house fell silent again, and Tina began to relax, until around 3:30 a.m., and that is when she heard the pacing. There were tiptoes and shuffles on the stairs, then the rocking chair sound. The noise was even higher this time, increased, and she had the feeling something was going on there. Panic seized Tina, and she withdrew whatever courage that she had possessed. That's it, she thought. She packed everything in her bag and ran away from the house in the middle of the night, and she could not even look back as she did that. So, would you have stayed? My name is Isabel, and I'm 33 years old, and I want to share with you the incredible story of Randanatong. If you don't know, Randanatong is an excellent app closest to role-playing or map strategizing, where you input an intention, like something eerie. Then the app gives you a place to play within a specific radius. It is meant to parallel your intended course of action. You remember the story about kids who, while randomly touring, stumbled across bodies in a suitcase? Wild, right? Well, my best friend had her own story, and it was a horror story. She and a group of friends agreed to go to Randanatong when the sun set. They put their minds to it and set the goal to become creepy, then proceeded to drive. Eventually, they got to the road full of gravel, and it was surrounded by vast tracts of wheat fields again. After all, they were in the Midwest. When they got there, it was pitch black. At that moment, a crow swooped dangerously low close to the car. The group screamed, and a friend with me immediately pulled over and started to get out of the car to calm herself. After this, the proverbial turned into the ridiculous. She looked at a friend seated in the passenger seat, and then at the compound and the fields behind him. At this, she saw someone, or something, standing in the middle of the field. She had no idea what it was, or what to do with it, but a feeling of threat rose in her, and she bolted. No one else saw the figure, and before they could, she backed up the car and headed in the opposite direction. She took her last look at the field as they put the vehicle in motion. In any case, whatever had been standing there was no longer present. In addition, the last time she told me she did not report what she had seen to the others in the car because she did not want to scare them. Honestly, I believe she could not have acted better. If it were me though, I would have gone ballistic. Growing up in the Midwest, I think this has always been my biggest fear. Driving at night past fields and seeing someone or something out there in the cold when they should be indoors. Kelly was wise to go with her gut, and I hope she learned from it or my story. Some people have that feeling to leave, and it's better to do it rather than become the following statistic. Masha is here to tell you a horrifying story. Back in time, there was a damaging train crash, and many people died in the incident. One of the many victims was a man whose story was as touching as it made his family both mourn and fear. Once, the man was in the hospital, and shortly after the crash, his family said they had received phone calls from his number. At first, they were hopeful. They said perhaps he was not killed in the accident, and is currently attempting to get to them. When they called the numbers, there was no response, even when they picked up the phone. However, they could only hear noises, static, casual, or awkward sounds. These were some of the calls that made the family develop an eerie feeling. They attempted to comfort themselves. Maybe he was pinned under the debris or trying to shout for assistance, but they were speechless. With time, some honorary aides got to the accident scene to search the wreckage. The family had to cling to hope, but their worst fears would transpire and be founded. The man had unfortunately died on the spot when the train crashed. It was difficult for the family to bear the loss. As if this wasn't enough, what followed turned the situation into something extraordinary. When the authorities returned all the man's belongings, such as his phone, they realized one thing was odd. The phone's call record findings revealed that numerous outgoing calls had been made after the crash. These were not some technical bugs. The calls were made at approximately 10 to 15-minute intervals. The family was in shock. They were fully aware that the man was already a corpse at the time of the accident. Still, his phone was ringing. Such calls were not a one or two occurrence. They occurred several times, and he was confirmed dead. Just the idea of the phone ringing by itself was creepy. Far to go was a realization that every single call once received only led to answering services filled with unrecognizable sounds of static and noise. Today, even the family does not know what happened. How could the phone connect calls once the man had died? What happened to the calls to change once the phone was returned? Was it a mistake, a setup, or fate? What do you think? Could it be an angel or demon? Or was it just a technical glitch that could not be figured out? My name is Abby, and I'm 36 years old. Today, I will share the most terrifying stories of random kids that would haunt you. One story said, my little brother was sleepwalking one day. He usually does this at least once per week. His mom was behind him, taking him to bed, but suddenly, he replied in a deeper voice,
I would, but the devil is behind you.
Another story on Reddit said that a kid whispered in her sleep, before I was born, I had a sister, right? This scared her mom, and the kid again said that, which made her mom worry a lot. Later, when he woke up, he seemed totally normal, but he still whispered in his sleep. One of the stories said, my little cousin drew a picture of a creepy black monster, looked up and said, he told me to draw this. He is coming for you. Better hide. However, this story is the scariest. It said, my 4-year-old son questioned my pregnant sister if she had a baby in her belly. She instantly said with a straight face. He slid from his chair and headed for the kitchen saying, we need to get it out. I'll go get the knife. You've heard these terrifying tales of scary, true paranormal stories, and the fact remains that evil is lurking around the corner. These experiences highlight the dangers of paranormal beings, keeping an eye out for a chance to attack. What other secrets are hidden behind other doors? What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. If you're brave enough to face the unexplained, subscribe and enable notifications. Until next time, keep your lights on.